A tēnā rawa mai e pā e tō mātai matua nui te rangi. Nā kahiaroa ke nei a hau i roto tēnei rā e whai haere ake atuana ki te whakarite atu i ngā huatanga katoa i tēnei o ngā kōrero. Ahoy anō rā, karakau i tino pai te hono pai tukutuku. Karakau i te tino tau, karakau i te tino hono i roto i te rā nei no reira nā hau. Kua hoki ke mai anō ai a hau ki roto ki ngā kōrero a Tahumaakaakanuimatua, ki ngā Whakataunga kreme. Kua uatu anō ai rā a hau anō, kia mea tonu atu nei e a hau taku kōrero, hei whai atu, hei whakatituki atu i te kōrero i tōna nahi, tō te rai nahi, rā i tīmatari atu ai, i whakawhanake atu ai roto i tō te rai nahi, kia tituki pai, ki roto ki tēnei rā tonu e pā, no reira hau, awhiake atu ai e pā, i te āhuatanga ki nei kōrero. He kōrero tonu nā kei te taumahake o te tū āhua o te kōrero. No reira, he tika tonu ke kia mea atu ai te kōrero kia tituki pai. Mea atu ai tonu i te kōrero kia tituki pai i roto i te tū āhua tonu nā me te nunu ike o roto i ngā tūāhuatanga o te kōrero i tēnei rā. Aki tēnei wāhi tari nei e pā, nā, ka tino tau i ngā wā katoa i te nuinga o te wā, te hononga pai tukutuku ki konei no reira nā hau. Kua whāwhai ke a hau ki konei. Tau atu ai, kua kai pō ke nei, i te pō ahi nei. Ana, pori te mai nei, tēnei o ngā kōrero kia tiki pai. Awhitanu atu ai me ngā whakaaro nui, o roto te inoi nei e pā Hapu, kia era, i roto i ngā whānau, i ngā uri, i ngā Hapu. I roto anō i ngā tamariki mokopuna, putāti katoa anō ki ngā PaeperaKoroutu i roto tonu anō hoki a rātau. Rātau katoa, ahakua rā kai whiara, ahakua rā kai te aha ke tonu anō rā hoki e rātau. Ki roto ki e nei wā, ai pā e tō matamatu anu i te rangi, tau awhi haere anō ai, tautoko, turuki, whakau tonu anō rā hoki ki a rātau, ai ngā wā katoa. Pita tonu atu ki roto ki ngā wā, ka oti mai ngā huatanga katoa o te pō nei, i te ingoa te iehua. Mene, ka piti hono ka tātai hono ko rātau mātonu tērā te mate. E kore rawa rā e mutu te poroporo, e kore rawa rā e mutu te tani, e kore rawa rā e oti ai, kia rātau te kōrero. Ko iei nei tētahi āhuatanga o te kōrero ka kore mutu, me te mihi, me te whakatauki, me te whakaaroaro. Ko ia hoki i roto tonu anō rā i a rātau i ngā Hapu, Putanua, ki roto ki ngā whakatupuranga ōmua. Putatu anō rā hoki ki ngā tū kana kua hiaroa ke nei, e kōrero tiana i roto i e nei rā. Ngā tū kana ka kore kōrero i roto i te nuinga o te wā, i roto i ngā Hapu, Māori, i roto tonu anō hoki i ngā Hapu, iwi. E kōrero hia ke nei tonu anō hoki i roto i nei rā. E no reira nā, ngā mate, poroporo, tani, poroporo, mihi, kia koutou, haere, whakaoti atu. Ka piti hono ka tātai, hono ka tātai mātonu anō tēnei tātou. Ko hoki ke mai anō ai. Ki o te ki ngā kōrero whaiwhai haere anō ai. Kara mui haere mai anō ai i ngā kōrero. Kara pōi atu ai i ngā kōrero. Hai aha. Kia tino whai i te tika o te kōrero ki te wā. Te tika o te kōrero ki te wā. E no reira nau mai haere, nau mai haere, nau mai haere. Nau mai haere piki, kake, hara mai, tēnā rā tātou, kai te mihi atu. A mauri ora. Kahuri, kia ora. Finally, you'll notice it took 3 times today to get my kōrero done. I would have taken a 4th time. But I decided to cut from there and because we really need our kōrero all done in one go. And, enough of this sort of taking to our kōrero over 2 or 3 or 4 times for different videos to get the kōrero done. So I decided, no, I'll start all that kōrero again. And I'll start it from here. Here where the connection is always, well, most of the time, it's always good. And over the overwhelming amount of time, the connection's always good here at this office here. And so welcome, everyone. Welcome those of you who have managed to get yourselves back into position to be able to enjoy our kōrero. And who are ready for another go at it. Got all my notes up, ready to go. Got my my little plan I always follow, my step-by-step plan. Taku tuhi tanea, ka mutu atu aku kōrero ka titiki pai mai anua i roto i ngā tuhi tanea o Hawhauaomo. Ka rārangi mai, ka raupapa mai ngā kōrero ana, ka tahi ka hono mai, te aha, putātiki wāhike, ki kōrero ke ki kaupapa ki take, aha nei, i roto i aku kōrero. So, I decided to start it all again. It was a bit hōhā that happened today. Sorry, I nearly dropped my notes there. I nearly dropped my iPad. Yeah, bit hōhā today because that shouldn't have happened. We had such a good line in there today, and then it just went on us again, and it took 3 videos. It was going to take 4. But I've deleted those, started it all again. And so here we are. And for those of you who have already heard a lot of the kōrero, kaitapai. Engari, ka aroha mai rā tonu koutou i te mea nā, ka tārua hi atu ai i te kōrero i te waha tonu, i aku kōrero, i etahi wā. Yeah, only some of it will come up again, but not all of it. You'll find that it'll be, in many ways, quite a different kōrero tonight, but that I will still cover most of what I'm supposed to cover, just like I did today. I think I went into just about everything today, right down to the wire. I think I went to today, which was good. And that's the same thing I'm going to do tonight anyway, but I just may not do it in the same words and in the same way. But let's get down to it. I mean, we've got a defrauded deal on the table still, and we're asking for it to be taken off the table, and we refuse it outright. And we've got, enormous reasons to do that. And I think for a start, when an agreement of that magnitude is defrauded, now that's a big thing. That's a big thing. We can't just go along with that. For the simple reason being is that initially that deal is not a deal that we would sign. And there's the fraudulent part of it, majorly the fraudulent part of that whole deal. It's not a deal I would sign either. And it says there the Y225 in the notice that we got on the deal, Y225 was represented in there. By who, we still don't know. But we can take a couple of guesses now at the moment. And that person doesn't know, but they don't take that deal off the table. That person's in for a good punch in the head. That's exactly what my people have said. And I said, oh, well, if it ain't me who sees them first, make sure you smack them over for me. Because we don't like that sort of thing. You know, when we get dragged into a deal that we would never take, you know, and people take it upon themselves. I mean, this is a deal that was made without us, basically. A series of meetings were called. Certain people went to those meetings. They had witnesses, they had accessories to the defrauded deal. And they basically, it just doesn't make sense, eh? Doesn't make sense, eh? And this is what makes us laugh about this process, is that, the more that, we get this arrogant demeanour of the kahungurangitane who seem to think, they can do whatever they like just because they've got the support there of the Crown. And just because the Crown says they're the LNG, that's not going to stop us from punching their head in. Because that's where this is coming to. The other thing this is coming to is that they're never going to be able to get us to sign any such deal. And because I didn't sign it, and I would be the initial signee for Y225 to any such agreement. I have a number of signees under me, and we also have dignitaries. I'm one of those dignitaries. Now, none of the dignitaries have signed anything. None of us attended any hui, and none of us were consulted. Okay, so that's how bad this has got. That's how bad this has got. And as Christian as I am, I know when I've got to stand up for my people. And, and where my mana is at stake here, I know that these people think that they, can do what they like, and run all over our mana in the land and in WairarapaTararua and, sign our iwitanga away just like that. All amongst themselves, and they think they can get away with that without a punch in the head. They're wrong about that. I want to make that clear right here now. They're wrong about that. So we give them, one option, and that is to settle with compromise or face the Whakatapu on the 17th of July, Monday the 17th of July, 2023 at Turukipo at midnight. And through that time of the Whakatapu, they will need to comply. They will need to submit to the demands of the Whakatapu, and they will need to also come clean. Because they know for a fact themselves. They know they're full of it. They know that the Gonas And the simple fact of the matter is that they're trying to use the process to stay afloat. And that's all they've been doing, the whole of, since 2009. The big problem with that now, they've got to understand and realise the big problem with that now is that things are looking more effectively as if they should be Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And that's what we've been going on about all this time. But there's only one Tahumaakaakanuimatua in this region, and that's us. That's us. Okay? So, if they don't back their deal up, then they get smacked over. And I tell you what, that's the honest truth. That's the honest truth. The other thing too is we're looking for, through our lawyers, we're looking for control of the settlement, which would be, the best way, I guess, to go about things. So if the Crown allows that through the process, because they're now fraudulent, really. They're declared fraudulent, the kahunu. So by rights, they should step aside. They're no longer fit for purpose in terms of being able to handle representing such an agreement and a settlement deal with any other tribes as an LNG and as a settlement entity. They're now declared fraudulent. The whole of the public knows, everyone knows. And in fact, lots of key people in the country want to see kahungunu rangitane shut down. Well, kahungunu especially, because they're the ones who have been the most defiant and arrogant and blatant right throughout the last 15 years. And quite frankly, people have just had enough of them. And we don't mind admitting that actually at this stage, we feel the same. We feel the same. So that's where things have come to. And even as a Christian, I've got to still stand up, for my mana, stand up for our iwi and do the business, you know what I mean? And either I let these people run all over our mana or I punch their head in two. So I'm going to punch their head in two. That's my decision. Okay? And that's fine. And be that sinful, or whatever. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And yeah. No doubt I'll confess that later and be forgiven by the Lord. I know the Lord's grace is huge. And I know his mercy is huge, and he will always be there for me no matter what. And I know he's not going to overjudge me in terms of standing up for myself and making sure that I fight for my rights and stand up for my mana. Within... even within this space, within the iwi space, it is mana that the Lord granted me. The Lord gave me all the blessings I have to be able to work and at the capacity and with the mana that I do in this space. The Lord blesses me with all of that. So, rightfully so, I should stand up for that and ensure that for my people, that my people understand also that, I'm never going to let them down. And, I do pray that, that these others are far more wiser, and that they don't take it down this track. But, however, that's where we've come to at the moment. And it's not just us. It's not just me wanting to punch their head in. You've got a lot of people from right throughout the country wanting to punch their head in and shut them down. Yeah, we can't help in our kōrero bringing you the truth and the facts, and that's the honest truth. I'm not joking to you. But if they don't take this deal back and get rid of the defrauded state of that deal, it's punch in the head time for them. Okay? And that's the honest truth. Right. But, yeah, our lawyers at the moment would be trying to see, as well as all the other work that they're doing at the moment, they're currently busy with the Crown and the Tribunal, working away at every aspect of our claims and ensuring that they take all the major take. In fact, I think they're going to look at all our take, and they know which ones that we want to take to court, so we've got all of those there. But yeah, we'll see where that comes to. But we've got an urgent meeting to be had with our lawyers coming up very soon. And yeah, we should enjoy that particular meeting, and it'll be part of mostly what we're starting to do now. Let's get more control of our journey through the process, and more control also of all our taonga tikuiho in the country and in WairarapaTararua. And that's why next, after we've finished looking at WairarapaTararua, Taunga Wairua as well. Okay? So, yeah. And they would be coming next. So, you know, this is a biggie, this settlement, and they shouldn't have done that. Kahungunu should not have done that. No, they shouldn't have defrauded it or signed it in the way that they had, just to try and get the deal to go through so that they can be mana whenua, blah, blah, blah. They're never going to be mana whenua here. We are. The Tahumaakaakanuimatua are mana whenua here. From right back via the tupuna, via the right, iwi, all those sorts of things. The things that we have, the foundations that we have, that's where everything begins. Not from this, you know, this, this attempt only to be an iwi that has failed, and all these other, flawed aspects of the claim of the kahuna and rangitane to iwi status and mana whenua status in this region. Yeah, some of the most poorly written research that we've ever seen. Definitely not Tutura claims reports, information, most of the detail in their reports. It's made to look like that, but it isn't. See, it isn't, because what they've left out is a lot of the kōrero based on some of those ancestries, the timing that they were recorded, the situations that they were recorded in. You don't get all of that kōrero, you get all of that shut out, and you get this one focus on one thing, one tribe, one. Yeah, it's all of one thing with these, the colonizers' ways of doing things. They're very singular in the things that they do. They're very mono in the things that they do, and it's not particularly helpful for you when you're super tribal like we are, when you have a cultural consistency like we are, and you're deeply spiritual as well as we are, and most Indigenous people are. Okay, so that's where we've got to. Now, the requirements, I started those, explaining those yesterday. And the first of those requirements, the return of the 41,000 ancestries stolen via the mandating process, which, they knew that they wouldn't change any of those ancestries over to Kahungunu. They just, they just reinforced the fact that they had a connection to the Kahungunu Uri, and that's all, that they had a connection. So, aroha mai, and One of the things that we have come to as well is the simple fact that e tātou mā, within the process of the settlements, we need to be sure in terms that we understand the aspects that assured that we laid the whakatapu in the first place. And this is one of those aspects, to the whole of the question. People have asked, why the whakatapu? Why was it laid? Isn't that unfair on the other tribes? And no, it isn't. It isn't unfair, and we have right to that because this is our land. We are the only tribe that rightfully holds claim to the entire of WairarapaTararua. Kahungunu Rangitane do not have that right, and even their evidence shows that. They do not reinforce that through substantial evidence, through sufficient evidence in order to show that they have that outright, that claim to the entire of WairarapaTararua. They don't. They just assume that they do through a lot of the over-exaggerated kōrero, over-exaggerated proclamations of the Crown, the over-exaggerated nature of things through the process, and having been under the Crown all these years. Okay? And so, 41,000 ancestries. The second reason, all the lands under those ancestries. Another of the reasons that the whakatapu was laid in the first place, basically those lands were stolen too. So they've got to give them back in order to fulfill the requirements and to have the whakatapu lifted totally. Okay, that includes the whakatapu being at full power. Okay, the third one, all the violence, all the hurtful, abusive, feudal ways of treating others, and especially Tahumaakaakanuimatua, that have been going on in this region for some of us for years and years. Years before we began in the process, but right through during the process as well. Okay, and so we bring that to you as well. That's the third reason. Now, if that was to cease, then that requirement is fulfilled. Well, at the moment, it's still going, but only just. Most of the people right throughout both regions have ceased. They've desisted from, the violence and abuse and feudal ways of treating our people and threatening our survival in the space. That's basically what they've been doing. Now, that's still happening. Like, for instance, my whānau. My whānau is the top whānau in Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Its existence together as a united whānau is threatened right now. It's threatened right now. And it has been getting threatened like that over the years. I had hoped that people might have the sense to back off my whānau. But since they haven't, I've started up a few different things to help these people to back that up. Okay, I've got a few different things in line. One of them is to take the whole matter to court. That's the first thing. The next thing is I may involve police into that. That may come in at some point in time. And also, our iwi is not happy with that situation. You know, the most senior whānau, and of course, the top of the Taiōpuru Ariki Mataunga, is considered very, very significant, very, very important, highly fundamental to the entire of the iwi. And a lot of it, I mean, we've got 280,000 plus in our iwi. Okay, now a lot of those people have expressed anger at the way my whānau's been treated right through. And we know the major culprits, you know, there's the ex-whānau mob, there's another couple of other whānau too, you know, particularly the whānau that are helping the ex-whānau mob. And we don't see the relationship between what ex-whānau mob stands for and Christianity. These people are Christians, these families helping the ex-whānau mob. And yeah, just as far as I'm concerned, you know, their values as Christians need to be questioned really, really hard. They need to be questioned, and I'll tell you why they need to be questioned. They need to be questioned because a lot of the feudal and abusive and, you know, just utterly disgusting aims of these people with, you know, the aims that they have alongside the aims of the ex-whānau mob, which are utterly disgusting. I mean, just to conspire against the whānau, and especially to attack the kids. I mean, they've been attacking my kids. You know, there's some of the kids that got abused back between 2009, 2010, right through to 2013. One of them got attacked for 10 years right through there. I mean, that's disgusting. And now they're taking more control of them. And there's more use of karakia to take control of people these days. You know, all those sorts of things. That's one of the areas I haven't spoken to you about very much within our kōrero, is the use of the karakia. You know, these people, they realistically, you know, by law, and Tahumaakaakanuimatua, you get caught throwing karakia like that, you get put to death. That was the penalty in Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And quite frankly, some people do feel like shooting these people who keep throwing these karakia around and utilising karakia to take control of people, to take control of their minds and their spirituality and make them do what they want. And, you know, all that sort of thing. No, because the karakia is very, very powerful. They're like spells and black magic and all that sort of thing. And quite frankly, these incantations put into the hands of the wrong people can do a lot of damage. And so that's what they've been doing with my whānau in particular. I just thought I'd mention that. So by rights, you know, we should be angry now, and we should be ready to go to battle and fight. And quite frankly, that's exactly how I'm feeling. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, at some point, we're going to have to strike these people because they need to learn a lesson, and that lesson is that throwing derogatory karakia in a Tahumaakaakanuimatua land is against the law. And we're going to let these people know that in no uncertain terms. However, you know, I understand being a Christian, sometimes the Lord will get in first. So if the Lord gets in first, you know, then the Lord got in first and did that for me. Otherwise, in terms of enforcing the law and enforcing our laws and being a part of the law of the land, being the ariki, being the paramount chief. That's my usual thing, to stand up for my mana, to stand up for my whānau. And so that's exactly what I've got planned, to stand up for my whānau and things like that. So, we might go down in some cases, but we don't go down without a fight. And, if they think that this is a really good way of treating the Tahumaakaakanuimatua, I'm going to hopefully be able to drum into the ex-whānau mob and anyone else wanting to play silly buggers with the Tahumaakaakanuimatua, that you cannot do things like that to the Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and especially to me. If the Lord gets in first, I will. Then I'm too slow. So, but, those are some of the things that are going on. And, some Christian people, I mentioned that the other day, especially Pākehā men. I don't know whether it's because I hang out with a lot more Pākehā people nowadays. And I'm not sure whether it's because of that, but I tend to run into, all of a sudden, heaps and heaps of Pākehā men that just, they're Christians, but I swear they're anything but, they're anything but Christian, because of a lot of the ways in which they are very, very sinful ways. A lot of these guys, and it's in particular Pākehā men. I can remember mentioning them a few of my kōrero ago. And, pretty disgusting. Things towards, especially towards women. Some people have said to me, you're in an open brethren church, what you'll find is that women can be downtrodden in the church like that. I said, is that right? And I said to those people, I said, well, yeah, I've seen a wee bit, I've seen a bit of evidence of that, but what I actually think is that if our church is going to end up being something like that, or if it has rulings within it that are something like that, then that's not very biblical. By standards, women have a place in the church. Women, they are honoured even in the Bible. So, and even though the Lord, the Lord explains, things within, between men and women, and standards and quality ways of treating each other within the Bible. And I've read through all those things, and they're quite wonderful. I don't accept, if there's some feudal behaviour or feudal rulings in our church, I don't accept that in an open brethren church that it has to be like that. If that's the case, I'm not too sure. I haven't had a good look at that. But that's what someone said to me. I said, well, I don't know. I've seen a bit of evidence of that, but I could be wrong unless I check out everything and get to understand that. And if it is like that, if it is a bit feudal towards women, then that's not very biblical, because the Lord teaches us to always treat women with respect, with respect, with true loving kindness, with equal rights, blah, 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 blah. All those things are all, we need to be accountable for all those sorts of things. But if our church is one where things are a little bit feudal in terms of the way that they think about, well, that'll be something I would look to change. Okay? Because I don't think, that's right. I don't think that's right. And I haven't been Christian for that long, but I've gotten to know things pretty well by this stage. And what I notice, I'm starting to stand up more and more and more against a lot of stuff that keeps going wrong in our church. Now, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Don't take it too seriously that things are totally haywire in our church. But there are times when things can seem like that. Yeah. Depending on what you're doing and what you're mixed up with and how people are looking to treat you or others around your space. But, the fact of the matter is you don't really know exactly what's happening in there unless you see what's going on in the core and behind the scenes, etc., etc., etc. But there is evidence of that there. Yeah, there is evidence of that there, and of feudal behaviour like that towards women being let go. All that sort of thing. It's quite disgusting when you're, because I've been involved in that, involved in a lot of the opposition to some things like that. I've opposed it, and you know what? To my great surprise, a lot of these behaviours and that were overlooked, and men, Pākehā men keep martyring other Pākehā men in the process. And it's quite disgusting to look at, but where things might concern me personally, that's where these sorts of people need to be careful. Because where something concerns me personally, I'm not going to be afraid to stand up against that, And it doesn't matter whether they want to do anything about it or not. I will do something about it, whether I talk to them or not, or whether I put them in their place or whatever I do. But, whatever I do about that is what I do. And I think people will just have to accept that. And if they can't, well, then they're not being very Christian, because what they would be trying to get me to do is just to accept a lot of the crap I've had to take. And that's not going to go down with me. That's not going to go down with me. And, the other thing, to be fair, is a lot of pressures have been put on the church by outside groups. And one of those groups is the ex-whānau. They've called on members of the church to do this and do that and, do handstands and all that, and they're doing it. And they've even told them how high to jump and the jumping, So, yeah, a lot of those things are worth questioning, but, yeah, there's it's not perfect. Let me put it that way. It's not perfect. And I don't see what's wrong, basically, with being upset at some of these sorts of issues, and there's nothing wrong with that. I find it a hard case because a number of people. It's funny. Some of the people that do talk to me about things like that, they've actually had a lot to do with a lot of issues, based around these sorts of things that I would oppose in the church. Now, because a lot of those things they've been involved with it, what I find funny is that they always try and curb it from go to. I mean, but quite frankly, some of the things that these Pākehā men do deserve a good punch in the head. They do. They deserve a good punch in the head, and a kick in the guts and a smashing over. But you know what? You've got these other men in the church that will try and curb all of that sort of thing. And that's understandable, but at some point they've got to realise, people can only take so much, and at some point if someone gets angry and blows up because people have decided that they want to hurt them and kick them in the guts with a lot of these sorts of things going on, well then you can't blame them, eh? If they blow up, at them at some point in time. I'm not saying that I'm going to, because, most of these, these Pākehā men, they're useless anyway, so I wouldn't bother with them, so, but they deserve a real good kick in the head. But I would say that, perhaps Christianity is a place where some of these Pākehā men like to hide away and get away with some of the things that they like to do and like to get away with. Perhaps that's the case. The other thing is that they're not necessarily the sorts of guys that you really want to punch in the head, because you just have to just go and they blow over. They're those sort of guys. So, but their behaviours, far from Christian. So they need to correct that, and hopefully they realise, when you're dealing with someone like me, and I'm used to, when I was younger, in those years, I used to punch people's head in all the time, just because I'm mature in that. And I've grown up a bit. Doesn't mean to say I won't punch your head in. Doesn't mean to say I won't punch your head in, but, I'm definitely a lot more mature these days. And when I see that there's no real, guys like that, they're a useless waste of time. But in saying that, a lot of the things that they're doing need to be dealt with. That's the other thing. And what I'm hoping that, what I've done is I've prayed to the Lord that he does what's rightfully needs to be done with these guys, because I don't think it's right that they keep getting martyred like that they keep getting put up on a pedestal like the way they are in the church, especially after some of the behaviours that I've witnessed. They're just utterly disgusting. And so it gives you a bit of an idea of some of the ways of some of these ones who are putting them up, exalting them and stuff like that, and haven't really done anything about the issues there. But, yeah. Gosh, I went on about that for a wee while, didn't I? But in saying all of that, yeah, we have some real issues in there. And that third reason for the whakatapu, that's an absolute reason for any time for a whakatapu to go up, and also to go to full power. If your kids are getting abused, getting violently treated, maltreated, smacked for no reasons at all, just utterly picked on all the time. Okay, those are reasons to lay whakatapu and actually put it to full power. Okay, but luckily a lot of that stuff shut down. But you got this one whānau, and they've got a few Christian whānau supporting them in their continuation. They changed the style of how they're doing it, but, just as heartbreaking, just as abusive, and just as hurtful. So I'm not dumb. They're not realising, but they're going to be up against it soon, and we're going to shut them down in no uncertain terms. And I don't really care if some of our people actually shoot at them and shoot them dead. I don't really care. They've been told, they've been warned, stop doing these karakia around, stop doing this, stop doing that, and they just won't. They're just too arrogant. And then they've got these Christians helping them out. Hope they get shot too. Because by rights, they shouldn't be supporting and encouraging the things that this ex-whānau mob are doing. No good taking sides either. And these Christian families have decided, it's one side and not the other. you've got to learn the stories of both sides. And you've got to understand that the ones less likely to be upfront and honest and telling the truth are actually groups like the ex-whānau. See, so this is why I question hard the values of these Christian families that are helping them out. You know why? Because they're full of crap. They're full of crap, the ex-whānau mob. All the stories that they've made up, all the reasons for this and that, all their denials of all the stuff that they've done over the years, the feudalism, the mob as well. Okay, the mob, the tūhoe, the feudal ways, the gang ways, the throwing around of karakia, including all-inclusive of the occult. You know, and all the derogatory karakia. You throw one derogatory karakia around in Tahumaakaakanuimatua land, and you can be shot, you can be put down. And they've been warned over all these years, this whānau. And yeah, one day they're going to throw one at the wrong person, and they're going to get wasted. Okay? And if that's the Lord's call, that's the Lord's call. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have no control over that. And I have no control, well, you know, things that I have no control of, yeah, we let go and we go and control the things that we can. Okay? But, you know, in a lot of cases too, sometimes it's the Lord's call. I think within Christianity we depend on the fact that within the gospel, within the New Testament, everything is acted upon within the light, within the positive, within the good. And that's fine. That's fine. I've got no worries with that. But still, there are your realities. We've got to deal with realities as well. And sometimes you don't have a say in it. Sometimes you walk, you can walk into any situation, big fight straight away. What do you do? And if you're like anything like me, you don't lay down. You scrap. Okay? That's what you do. And even if I'm Christian, for me, that would be the Lord's call for me to stand up. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I bring to this equation. This ex-whānau mob's been attacking my kids. And now they're attacking my mokos. And they're doing that, through their karakia, through control and manipulation of whānau, etc., etc., etc. You know, even my eldest son, who I'm a little bit worried about now, he's been through a lot. And it's that ex-whānau mob. But what I can't work out is I keep warning him that whānau is not a whānau to hang out with. I wouldn't have left that whānau if I didn't think so. You know? And he keeps wanting to hang with his cousins. That's fine by me. But he also gets to hang with the ex-whānau mob, that part of the whānau. And so, yeah, the rest is history. Sometimes he's had a hard time in there. He just doesn't realise I know that. And some of his thinking and some of the things that he's saying now are a little bit, it looks like he's starting to just about, under their force, he's starting to even walk and talk and think like they do, which is not that impressive to me. That's not that impressive to me. However, I don't think he is out of control. I think he's still got control. He's just not showing it. But he's been through a lot of hassle with that whānau. He just doesn't realise a lot of the things he's been through was part of the control of that whānau over those things. A lot of the abuse that he endured when he was younger, partly controlled by their whānau, by the tūhoe side of the whānau as well. They do things like that. Why? Because they want to have the last say in the iwi stakes around this place. And they got quietened down when they got planted by us. So for the ex-whānau mob and for anybody else out there who thinks they can walk all over Tahumaakaakanuimatua, think again, because we're going to have a plan of attack and strategy too to come right back at you. If we're too late though and the Lord gets in first, like, yeah, sometimes that happens, and in fact a lot of the time that's happened for me. A lot of the time that's happened for me, but at the same time, what I'm not going to do is lay down to people like that. And so we get back to the defrauded deal. Hey, we're not going to lay down to that. If they continue this deal on the table, they're going to get smacked over. And this, end of story. Now, before this kōrero starts to get to talk only about the violent part of what's possibly going on here, we do need the settlement. So if it comes to that, I'm hoping that these people in opposition, that they're thinking straight, and they know for us to avoid any sort of situation like that, they need to get rid of that deal, renew the agreement, and put compromise in there and ensure that we all get to settle. And that really is what I hope happens. That really is what I hope happens. But if it doesn't, the Whakatapu will go up to full power, and they will need to submit, they would need to comply, and they would need to come clean. Okay? Because by not doing that, these people are in great danger, especially under Whakatapu like this. Yeah. I wouldn't try and test it if I was these people. Okay? Any of these people, I wouldn't try and test it. Okay, and that's, it's my life. It's been my life this last 25, 26 years. Being a top paramount is not easy. But one of the things I've become used to is being part of the law of the land. I'm part of the law of the land, and I am it, the law of the land. Our land I'm talking about. Everything that goes on in there, I know the law of all those things through and through. And so, yeah, if anything, it's my job to enforce that, to make sure the law is acted upon in the best ways possible. And though sometimes we get angry and we, sometimes that's how our tupuna sorted things out by law. Sometimes it was the end resort, the final resort, was war, battle, or a duel, and things like that. And though they're not customs we hold on to all the time today, and as far as being a part of God-centric, we're still that. But, just for the simple fact that sometimes I might say, we're not going to accept that and punch someone's head in. Sometimes, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect, just like most of the Christians that I've met. I haven't found a perfect one yet. Okay? So if I do that, then that's what I do. And if I've done it wrong, well, then I will go before the Lord and confess to that. And pray for forgiveness. And be forgiven for that. For the Lord is merciful. His grace is always with me. So, but, repentance is not always something that we're successful at 100% of the time either. But we got to keep trying. We got to keep trying. And so, yeah, but I don't think that we need to go into that sort of thing too much more, because it speaks for itself. Now, the fourth is apology from the Crown, from the kahunu, from the rangitane, and preferably from the tūhoe as well. Those people who enforced all these acts, or who are part of those whānau that enforced all those things upon te Tahumaakaakanuimatua, which saw our families suffer terribly. In the process, we're talking about the kids. You know, it's just utterly disgusting. Yeah. And that's the terrible thing about things like that in Tahumaakaakanuimatua, is that our people will pursue those things and they'll continue to do that to ensure that you have paid for it. Okay? Yeah, there's the fifth as well, which is a compensationary. So you know, because there's been costs, the costs of putting up with a lot of the damages and the value and the costs upon Tahumaakaakanuimatua of all the things that the kahunu rangitane tūhoe have been doing. Quite destructive too, especially the karakia. The karakia has been very, very destructive, and they don't realise that. They don't realise the damage that they're doing with those karakia. You know, any one of our people that those karakia are being thrown at can turn around with a gun and just go straight up to them and blow their lights out. You know? Any one of us with a sawn or shotgun could go straight up to them and blow their lights out if they do not shut those karakia down. Okay? I've got to point that out to the public, you know, just so that you understand exactly what's happening. Of course, we have a lot of immaturity within the groups that we're dealing with. And that's where we always get to with groups like this, you know. They still haven't grown up yet. They know what the end result is, but they don't really worry about that. They just continue to be the immature people that they are. And they keep doing the same thing arrogantly and blatantly along the way through the process. So look, e tatauma, as an ariki of this calibre, you know, an ariki mataura is the top level paramountcy. That's what you call that. Taiopuru is waka confederation, you know, connected to that paramountcy. And we have and hold 7 waka confederations. So under our Taiopuru, ariki mataura, there's huge mana in there. And so, yeah, hopefully our tūpuna o atua don't strike these people and things like that. But you know, sometimes it's far more severe, actually. They don't realise that, far more severe when they strike them. And but the Whakatapu going up at July, on the 17th of July at Turuki Po on that Monday night, yeah, it's quite significant. So if I was them, I would prepare to work around that and prepare to try not to take things that far and actually settle with compromise. That'd be the best thing that they could do. And in fact, that's the only choice they've really got. Okay? And obviously we can't keep this defrauded deal because it's never going to be accepted. Okay? Which is going to cause more trouble. And this is what we haven't enjoyed about kahunu rangitane. Most of the decisions they've made, you know, they're just troublemakers. Everything they do causes trouble. And I guess this is why we've come to this stage. If you're thinking tonight is all about the anger and about the violence that could happen, yeah, you're probably right. Why? Because we've come to that point in time. You know, these groups have got to think again. They're a bit pōrangi, if you ask me. They've gone a bit, you know, crazy up top. You know, because what they're asking for is to get smacked over. And I mean decently. I mean, we're talking ICU for all of them. You know, they're dumb. They're dumb because that can happen. That can happen. They're not to know. They're not to know. So, yeah, a bit crazy, a lot of the stuff that they're doing. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the mana that I stand up for. And I'll be standing up for that. Don't you worry about that. Yeah. But the whakatapu, does it affect the public? Well, no, it shouldn't do. Not directly. Not directly. And so I expect that it wouldn't, but I would still comply anyway. Okay, just to be on the safe side. As for the iwi, as for our iwi and the other tribes involved, they're in big trouble, the other tribes. Okay? See, that's why it's best to comply, because anyone on our side, on the side of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, you'll be fine. You won't get affected by the whakatapu at all, at full power. But those tribes in opposition, this is why they have to comply. See? They have to switch their way of doing things because, in actual fact, that's what will happen. That's what will happen to them. As they will end up in danger. The atua that punish people will come for them in some way or form or shape. Usually it's very tough, you know, intellectual. It's very, very tough on the mind and on the spiritual existence of people that do not comply. Okay? But whatever happens, happens. We don't know what that would be, but we know. And everyone knows that. Let's use some common sense out there with this whakatapu if we have to lock it in to full power. Let's not be stupid out there. Just comply. Don't put yourself in danger by not complying and not listening to us, because things will happen to you. I guarantee you. But what that is, we don't know. Yeah. We don't know. All right, but this is one of the ways we protect our taonga tuku iho, and if you don't like it, well, too bad. Too bad. I mean, okay, I suppose there could be a lot of other ways we could do that, but this is one of the ways of our tupuna, our ancestors. This is how they exercise control on an out-of-control situation over their taonga tuku iho. And anything threatening their survival in their land, this is what they would do. Lock in a whakatapu like this, put it in at full power, and everything, would settle right down. Okay, and so that's what will happen with the whakatapu. Let's talk about te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai just a little. Let me check out what the time is here. Oh, actually, I didn't even look at what time I started. Hopefully it was close to 7. No, it can't have been close to 7. It must have been earlier than that. If it was earlier than that, then what I'll do is, I'm gonna keep going past 8 o'clock. Oh, sorry, past 8 o'clock, just in case. Or did I start at 7? Oh, I can't even remember what time I started. Well, when I finish, I finish. Okay. And so I'll just keep going for now. But in te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai, we've got a similar situation. Okay? We've got junior tribes up there who will most probably try to get us to settle under them, to which we will refuse. Okay, so that's the similarity of the situation up there. The awa are an iwi, but they're teina. The ngāpuhi are an uri composite of that iwi. and are also tēnā. Okay? Now, in a lot of those lands that they also are part of, within our parts in those lands, we now have them under Whakatapu. However, it's not at full power, and we don't have any plans to put any of those Whakatapu right across all our lands, from the top of the north to the bottom of the south and up the west coast, into whanganui kahurangi whanganui mohua, not mohua, te taitapu, right through. The Whakatapu has been set as of yesterday. It was completed yesterday. Right throughout our whole land, and that took about, to lay, it took about 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah, took about 4 or 5 weeks to do that. Okay, so and that's hard case because to turn it up only takes a couple of hours. That's in one district, one region, only takes a couple of hours. And yeah, so, and I mean, if you were serious, and if we look back in te ao kōhatu, if you were serious over those times of preserving all your taonga tuku iho, of course you would lay things like this. At times, there were opportune times to do that, to protect your taonga tuku iho. Yes, you would do that. Yes, you would. When things are endangered, like, for instance, if someone does things that could, in effect, start an all-out war, that's another reason to lay whakatapu like these. Aukatitapu, that's what they're called, aukatitapu. And they take full control of everything spiritual, everything intellectual within everything, up top in the region gets taken control of, full control. And you cannot defy a tapu like that, an aukatitapu, because that's a very, 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 very powerful, restrictive mechanism right over the top of all the taonga tuku iho of Tahumaakaakanuimatua in that region. Yeah, so the same thing's been done right through. And I'm just publicising that just to make sure that everyone knows that. That everyone knows that. And so, up in TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai, if we get into the same situation and they want us to go under and we won't, and then they, start to threaten our existence there, well, our claims and our rights and interests there are already set. There's nothing they can do about that. But if they try to threaten that, just like Kahunu Rangitane and Tūhua tried to threaten down here in WairarapaTararua, then we will put it up to full power. We've got no plans to do that up there. But we decided to lay the Whakatapu right across because of the threats of the awa. When the awa started making threats in the way that they did, we decided, okay then, if awa want to play that way, if they want to take sides with the false narrative of the Crown, and also the garbage being fed the rest of the country from the kahungunu rangitane, then we will whakatapu all our whenua right through. Let's see how they like that. Because awa are not to know, but they're no threat to us. They're no threat to us. And very tēnā awa. For a long time, though, they've thought themselves tuakana banana. We've had a good check at all that. A good checking over, thorough checking over. They've tried to say also that Te Tini o Toi is a master blaster from way back, and that's not true. That's not true either. Te Tini o Toi is in fact not iwi. Te Tini o Toi is Hapu composite. Okay? And awa is an iwi composite off of that hapu composite. So, yeah, there you go. And although Te Tini o Toi might have become prominent in some areas of Te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai, as far as becoming prominent right throughout the land goes, that's incorrect. So the people of Awa, and I think Ngāpu here are some of the others. Some of the others of some people of Ngāpuhi have also said that the Tini o Toi, became prominent in the land over a certain period of time. That is false. That did happen in Te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai in some areas, though. But, yeah, especially for a tribe that it would be very, very tough, in fact, for a tribe that was hapu composite to become more prominent than anybody else in the land. It's very, very tough. And especially if you're sixth line junior, and even if it's via the fifth line, you're still sixth line junior, which is where Awa is. They're sixth line junior. Now, in no way could they have held prominence in the land. That's a long way away. If you're looking at the land extensively right across the land, that's a long, long way from being prominent in the land. The other thing is Te Tini o Toi got here in the 1200s. That's way off. Over 1,000 years ago, that's way off. That's about 400 years off. And, there's no way they could have become more prominent in the land than, say, Te Awa. They could never have become more prominent in the land than, say, Moai or Moriori itself, which is where Te Tini o Toi come from. Moriori, they're related also to Māori, related also to Maui. And the Awa come from there, and the Tūhoe come from there, from them. But Tūhoe is just an uri, just like Kahunu, who is an uri, and basically a descent group, a descent subgroup of an iwi, or a descent composite uri subgroup of an iwi. Okay? And then in a lot of cases, uri are subgroups of hapu composites. Okay? So they're composites or subgroups of hapu composites. Now, where I got to today in my kōrero was exactly where I'm up to now. And I've been looking at my paper. I guess I've been trying too hard to get up to this part and get it right, because I knew it was the part I got up to in my kōrero today. And so let me get on with it now. And that's why I keep repeating all the violent stuff and stuff like that. I think because I was overthinking in my mind that I didn't want to miss out this particular part of the kōrero, because it was where I got up to today before I deleted everything. And that is that in Te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai, one of the unique features of that particular region in the Mutu is it is the only one where all 7 of our iwi, primary super tribes in the country, our iwi, are actually still there. Right since the earliest times of their establishments in the country, right up to the present time. The 7 iwi are still present in that particular region, and it's the only one where all 7 iwi are there. This was particularly attractive to the settler and attractive to the crown since even pre-1769 right through to 1840. And if you count the number of years that's between 80 and, I think all up it's, 98 years? 98 years or something like that. 89 years or 98 years or something like that. I can't remember the figure quite. But that's how long the Crown was in the country before they made that move to take control of the country. So they had caused a lot of trouble in the country, and they had caused it over an extensive amount of time. Apart from all the positive things that were going on in the country, they were working, a lot of shrewd schemes in the country to ensure that as well. A lot of different things were taken control of that they knew that they needed to get control of. Like, for instance, lawlessness in the country. Lawlessness got worse and worse and worse right up to 1840. So from right throughout the first 100 years of the Crown and the settler in this country, they basically had taken apart our law system. Well, they hadn't taken it apart, but let's say they tested it to the limits. And partly there it corroded. Okay? Why? Because lawlessness in the country, though it never existed before the settler and the Crown got here, it existed then. Okay, so that was right through from from 1769 right through to 1840, lawlessness reigned in this country. Okay? And although our tupuna tried to get a handle on it, tried to get control on it as much as they could, so a huge majority of the settlers that first settled in the country of the first 100 years actually just about destroyed some of the most important aspects of our law system, of our tupuna in this country. Okay? And then they knew, well, for them, they felt that it was time to move in on taking control of the country around about 1840. Okay? With a deal that in 1840, everyone thought they were signing a deal with Westminster, who had already made previous deals. So you can see how our tupuna were getting sucked in right through that time, eh? There were a lot of positive deals going down. But a lot of negative consequences for us welcoming the settler into the country and the Crown, members of the Crown, representatives of Westminster Abbey. Okay, and then straight after they got that deal signed, that fraudulent deal in 1840, Te Tiriti, after they got that signed, the New Zealand Crown took over in the country without consultation, without advising all the tribes that have signed. They didn't, they just said, we'll take power now, we'll make sure everything falls into place according to our real plans for the country. And so they destroyed up the land. Yeah. They started to destroy it up. I get the feeling too that they understood the story of Maui and his brothers and the way things happened, and not just among Maui and his brothers, but there was, they were all part of Moai, Moriori, Maui, Māori, and you've got us through the senior line, Te Awa, Tahu, Te Mea, Māmoe, and all the others. Now, look, no doubt they knew that in different stages, as they moved to take more and more control of the land, it was similar to how we took control of the land, but we were doing it lawfully. We did it lawfully. We didn't take over from Moriori at all. Moriori weren't here first, it was Moai. It was actually Moai here first, not Moriori. That's what Stephen King said. Michael King said, sorry. And I guess Stephen Crisp, I'm thinking of, Stephen Crisp agreed with that. But that's incorrect. That is incorrect. And we didn't destroy the original people and take over the land. No, we are the original people. We are part of them. And in fact, Tahumaakaakanuimatua comes from the original most senior line, through Tawa, through Tutura, and of course, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, which is an iwi composite of Tutura, who is a Hapu composite of Tawa. And yeah, te mea. Okay, and so there we have it. If the awa and the ngāpuhi are patient with us as we get to work with them, what I'm hoping to be able to do is to work them through some of the processes they need to learn to understand where they're actually truly placed up there, in terms of being able oh, my nose has gone a bit itchy. Up there where the tribal groupings are placed, in terms of percentages, and the larger of the percentage, blah blah blah, how things should be in terms of where particular tribes, if they're iwi, they're likely to have the larger groups. If they're senior, they're likely to have the larger groups. If they're most direct, they're likely to have right of way as well. So there's all those particular concepts that we need to think about when deciphering exactly what the demographics are up there in terms of, population-wise. How do we interpret that one particular individual or whānau as a part of which super tribal grouping? Te mea. Okay? And when we get to work with all those things, they'll begin to understand, because we already know the mix up there and how the demographics should be. But rather than tell them that and try and make them fall in, which is not a strategy we're particularly keen about, we're hoping to be able to work with them. But we know along the way they're going to try and get us to sign a deal. We're not going to take that. Yeah, we're not going to accept any deal under them. If we can work a compromise in there, then maybe we'll sign it. Otherwise, there's no way. No, we're too to do for things like that. We're not going to sign under any junior groups up there either. Okay, we're not going to sign any deal like that. That means, either make or break for our future generations. No way. No way will we sign any deal under any junior groups. Okay? Aroha mai. Oh, well, my cold drink is over there, but I should have had it by me, and then I wouldn't be so coffee at the moment. But let me continue with this kōrero now. It's interesting up there that they don't quite understand. They tend to stick mostly to what they know and what their experience is. And I've often said to the groups up there, you know what? There was a time when everyone in the north thought they were Ngāpuhi. And I've said to them, some of the groups up there, You know what? If they still think that, then there's something wrong. It should be absolutely different up there. And in fact, when we start working with everyone up there, me in particular, when I start working with people up there, and we have to work with our groups among some of the lands up there and with our lawyers up there, they're not to know, but they're going to find that things are quite different up there. Okay, so they might get used to, sorry, not get used to, they might try to prepare for that. That's what I'm hoping, is that people up there will prepare for that. Okay, because just as our tupuna ordered down here and in Heretaunga Wairua, that's what we've slowly strategized towards. And we've got to that point, except, the junior groups down here don't want to really play ball. They've come to the realization of exactly what we've been strategizing towards, but they want control, and they're not going to get there. They're not good enough for that. They're not strong enough. They're booked. Both those groups, kahunu rangitane are booked. And unless you have a status like what we have, and you have nativity to run off, you cannot really change your circumstances from there. Okay, that's all I've got to say to that. That's all I've got to say to that. If you're booked, you cannot change your circumstances. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. But strength and caliber of what we have, and nativity and all that sort of thing, can give you the tools and the componentries and the consistencies that would outdo all of that. Okay, so you would have acquired, especially at this level. I mean, I'm Taiopuru Ariki Matauta. My whānau is Taiopuru Ariki Matauta. We're Ariki line with the top senior line and the most senior and primary iwi of WairarapaTararua and many other lands, including TeTaiHauauruAukatitai. We're one of the most senior up there. We're not senior, but we are one of the most senior up there. Okay? But, yeah, the thing is, with the other groups up there, what they need to be aware of is that there is no way in the world that we are going to change, those sorts of things up there, because, this is about our future generations. This is about our people and their future, and we are not about to sign all that under and sweep it all away under the control of some juniors. No, thank you. And especially ones that that are far from the caliber of what we have and what we've got in our iwi. Okay, we understand awa and all of them, and we know they've got karakia and stuff like that, but karakia is not everything. And we have karakia too, but we have a lot more than karakia. And so, we are way beyond a lot of those things. So, I mean, I still, I mean, we've, I've always dominated spaces like this. Always. And so it's not surprising that people see me dominating in the iwi development space too. Because I always have. And I'm not even using all my karakia. But very, very soon I'm going to be locked into my karakia, locked into my cultural way, just as the Lord blessed me. But with those things that are necessary for me in order to be more God-centric, more God at the center, more attuned to that positive side of life. Even though there's two sides, I mean, we already know that. Human nature is not being destroyed by us. Nothing is being destroyed by us in that respect. Just the negative and the derogatory and the occult is what we're getting rid of. Just that. Now, that doesn't change human nature. I mean, there's still going to be bad things there. I mean, we're never going to get rid of everything. But at least we're tuned in to the more positive and living in the light. And that's what our tupuna strive to do daily. They didn't try to live in darkness and light. That wasn't the case. See? And I think that's come from where darkness and light live through. Then not a show. Not a show in Tahumaakaakanuimatua living like that. Not a show. In fact, if any darkness was to be used, or anything occult in the old day, what we know and what we've learned through TeKura-i-Awarua was hardly ever. Okay? And if reasons came for that to be used, it went to the top whānau to be discussed around there. Okay, not only that, but whānau and people of those that are targeted for those occult karakia need to be met with as well. The decision is not taken lightly. And this is why I say to you that we didn't actually live in negative and light all the time, because negative was taken very, very seriously. And just like I was talking about before, the ex-whānau mob, just throwing them around just like that. That's not Tutura. That's not Owakuu Hatu. Okay, so you know you can't just throw those things around. Rerekuri-Akeatune. Rerekuri-Akeatune. Rerepo-rangi-noa-Akeatune. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. Those sorts of things are against the law in Tahumaakaakanuimatua. You lost your life if you got caught doing things like that. Today, you know, and these people think that they're tūhoe. You know, if this is the way tūhoe people are today, then they've got a lot of big problems there. So ex-whānau mob think they're tūhoe. Oh, well, then they're in the wrong part of the country. They need to get back to tūhoe, as far as I'm concerned. They don't belong here. Now, look, so that's, yeah. That's those sorts of things in terms of karakia. And so those are the teachings of TeKura-i-Awarua. And they're the original teachings of TeKura-i-Awarua. Now, you did not throw those things around. And in fact, you did not live within the negative. Always human nature has two sides. Yeah, we're not trying to change that. But hopefully the God-centric side has more of a control over everything, and I think they do. Just in terms of the way in which we're organised around karakia, and our tūturutanga is organised to stick with the positive side and living in the light, just as our tūpuna did. Yeah, whenever karakia of a derogatory nature or anything like that came up, there was a big hoo-ha was made about it, eh? And everyone met. And you made sure that it was lawful, okay? You made sure that everything was discussed before the people, the right people. Once that was okay, you went to their people. And you discussed it without them, and then most of the time, from what we know, you had the person involved. And they had to say what they did. Sometimes even the karakia was put on them in front of everyone. Okay, and their lives was taken control of. Sometimes they became slaves for the rest of their lives. And how did they do that? They were taken over through karakia. So all their karakia got taken off by the ariki mataura, by the taiopuru ariki mataura, like people like me. All their karakia got taken off and they got depowered. And those people who were offended, particularly ka takahiatia, e ia, ina, nā rātau, kai te rau atu i te karakia ki ai, i te matawha. Okay, and usually most of the time it was done, well, some of the time, okay, some of the time it was done in front of everyone, so that everyone was witness to that. And that person was basically locked down. That was our sort of prison. Yeah, that's our equivalent of prison. Okay, that person did that once. It's like a court, you hold a court, and that person's made to confess to their wrong. Nā hau te harahara. Nā hau anō koi. Ana. Nā hau tonu i takatakahi atu nei. Nā hau anō te wahine nei. Hane. Taito kai atu nei. Tūkino atu nei. Nā hau tonu. You know, and usually they're, you know, because they knew that if the likelihood of those people around them not all really knowing the truth was pretty unlikely. So they couldn't lie in the end. They couldn't lie. And if they didn't, you know, they probably would have lost their life. So at least they got to keep their life. Hey. At least they got to keep their life. And straight away they karakia them, locked them down, gone. They were slaves for the rest of their lives. Okay? And that's how the occult and everything like that was taken care of in our tupuna's time. Okay? And those are things that Tahumaakaakanuimatua has brought back. That's what we're going to be doing with our karakia and things like that. So if I was the 6 whānau mob, I'd be very, very careful, because we pull one of those on them. You know, if we can't sort of catch up with them, we'll find a way of getting that karakia onto them, and they're gone. They're gone. I guarantee you we get control of their karakia and they're gone. Yeah. But we understand that they're not all kōhatu, you know. They're not tūturu or anything like that. They're just learning. They're just learning. So that's why we've been so lenient on them. And even though they've done a lot of damages, you know, but they're going to have to pay, you know, paid for those damages. They've got to pay reparation for that at some point. And they will. They will, and we'll make them. We'll make sure that they do. But we've been letting them be, and that's why. Because they're not all kōhatsu. They're only puka. You know, there's no big chief in there. I'm the only big chief from in there. But I changed position from being in there amongst them, where all the trouble was, and all the potential for disaster. And there still is. It's still the same in there. The potential for disaster is unbelievable in there. And in fact, it's a lot worse now than it was then. And we're talking about 2014. That was when I left. It's now 2023, and it's a lot worse in there. But that's what we do. Yeah, we lock you down through karakia. We got karakia that can lock you down. And if these people are not careful, we'll go to all the right people. We'll talk through them. We'll bring in some of the biggest authorities in the country if we have to. And get control so that we can lock those people down. And that's what we would do to the 6 whānau mob if they continue in the way they're going, knowing full well, you know, once they do get their handle around, their minds around actual te ao kōhatu and how it operates, they might start to stop doing a lot of these stupid things that they do. Okay, and their feudal ways. You know, our tupuna weren't feudal. You know, feudal behaviour was frowned upon by our tupuna, and that's why the lawlessness in this country. Our tupuna protested from 1780. This is our knowledge of the protests of our people, 1780 all the way to 1834, about lawlessness. And lawlessness was still happening in 1840 in this country. So that's how bad things had got. Okay? Yeah, well, one of the things, just talking about the ex-whānau, one of the things that we hope is that we get to them before the Lord does, or we get to them before our tupuna do. And that's the thing with our very spiritual culture. Sometimes people do wrong, and the tupuna get them first, you know. Now, we always have the saying, and I mentioned that today, we have a saying called about our people that go, you know, to the other side of the veil. And we say, e kore rawa hoki rātau e hoki mai. You know, this is the one thing for certain that we know. E kore rawa hoki rātau e hoki mai. You know, kare hoki mai. But there are instances where sometimes tupuna are known, wairua ke atu nei, ka hoki tonu ke mai. Ka hoki tonu ke mai. You know, but we don't plan for things like that, because there's not things that we actually plan on this side. That's, if things like that happen, that's because they planned that, not us. Okay, and that's a little bit of knowledge on the spirituality of our ancestors in this country. It's a very serious thing. It's a very serious thing, and that's why I think partly I'm also in Christianity, because my tupuna you know, guided me into this particular faith, for want of a very particular way of being able to deal with certain things culturally. And I'm starting to get used to that, a lot of the spiritual nature of things, where things have changed with me, but they're becoming more, there's a lot more certainty around my spirituality. I'm not so relaxed anymore. I was so relaxed before, and thought, I'll just, you know, sit back and enjoy life with my legs up and stuff like that, you know, and kick back, you know, as much as I possibly could. But little did I know the Lord and my tupuna had different plans for me. I couldn't kick back anymore and enjoy what I used to enjoy with my old faith. Not so much. And I can't say I dislike the change. I can't say I dislike. I actually quite like it. I actually have, you know, I've begun to, I quite like this faith. I love this faith, actually. And same, you know, it's the same God. So I've got no qualms about that. So just different ways of worship, and a whole different, you know, there's so much knowledge out there, and so much I've got to learn anyway. But I gather that the more I take on, the stronger and more mature I'm going to become in this faith, and that's really, really cool. So I'm just going to keep excelling in the faith and in the spiritual nature of the faith, and continuing to reach out for that understanding of why it is the Lord drew me in to this particular faith, which yeah, is starting to really really work out for me. So I'm really quite happy. But yeah, e tatama, yeah, we say that those that go beyond the veil, they never return. And then we always hear incidences where people understand that, oh, one of my tupuna, I saw my ancestor, blah, blah, blah. And that's because they planned that for you. You know, you can't stop things like that. But officially, kare hoki rā tau hoki mai. You know, and I almost laughed at myself when I said that today. E kore rawa hoki rā tau e hoki mai. You know, and that's an old saying that rings true. It rings true because officially they don't. Once they go to that side of the veil, that's it. They're gone. They're gone for good. Okay, and but yeah. So there we go. We need to understand that, you know, for whatever reasons up there that they think that we should settle under them, we would need to argue quite emphatically that they would be incorrect. Also, the simple fact that they would be definitely Tina, and they would see that quite clearly once they see the proper demographics of the tribes up that way. Okay, and we're talking in terms of the iwi, because the whole 7 iwi up there. There are other massive features of that region, a very special part of the country, the TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai. But for years and years and years, everyone thought it was because of Ngāpuhi, or because awa were up that way, or, you know, all that sort of thing. And although everyone is special up there, not just Ngāpuhi or awa, you know, everyone is, they weren't the main attraction up there. Okay, and they weren't the main seniors up there. It was the simple fact that all 7 of us were up there. And there are other massive characteristics and features up there. And I'll get to remember a lot of those later on. Okay, so, but very important that the Crown wanted to establish there first, and settlers wanted to establish there first. Why? Because that was one part of the country that if they went there, they had connection with all the iwi and theoretically every tribe in the country. So they had connection with every high chief in the country as well, just from that one area. Okay, so that's what made it a very special, and that was a very unique feature and characteristic of the TuKura-i-Awarua in the country. Okay, and because all 7 of us are up there, the 7 iwi of the country, including Te Atiawa Nui no Rungaterangi, a lot of people say to me, well, where's Te Atiawa? Kai kona tonuke? Okay, I always go, yeah, they're there. And they go, well, kai whiakoi hoki Te Atiawa Nui no Rungaterangi. Kai whia ia rā anō e rā hapu tonu o rātau me ngā uri o roto tonu anō hoki a rātau. You know, and I would say, arara, māmoe. Māmoe. Tai tonu atu i ngā uri tūpuna o roto tonu anō ia Paurangahua. Okay? Paurangahua is also an ancestor of Orotu and Māmoe. And Paurangahua is in particular Te Atiawa Nui no Rungaterangi. You see, so Māmoe is also related to there. And but the line in particular of Paurangahua's last line, so it's junior. And so we're all up there. So we're all up there. Moai, Te Awa, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, Māmoe, Moriori, Mauri, Maui, Awa, and Te Atua Nui no Rungaterangi. Okay? And so, very, very special, those things up there. And that is one area that we need to be able to get our demographics right in terms of that characteristic. You know, we can't move into tūturu mode and tāokohatu mode unless we have that. And if anything, if there was a part of the country that was able to lead from one place and give an impression from one place of the, in particular, you know, te kahamai, o te Māori tonu o te āhuatanga, o roto I te reo. You know, that was one place. That was one place is in TeTaiHauauruAukatitai. And they say it's the strongest connection of ours to Makenui, the planet. Yeah, the strongest connection. That's another feature. There's other features of that area, but I don't want to get into them. I just want to focus on that one because it's important about our demographics up there, our tribal demographics. And once we get that right up there, everyone will understand why Tahumaakaakanuimatua has come up there with the understanding and the understanding upon organisation up there, and why we won't succumb to the signature under the juniors up there, etc., etc., etc. I mean, there's no way up there that Tini o Toi could have had the right of way anywhere in Te TeTaiHauauruAukatitai. There's no way in the world that Tini o Toi could have had that in Te TeTaiHauauruAukatitai. And there's no way in the world they would have been able to in Te TeTaiHauauruAukatitai as a result of different wars. And in fact, on the way, a lot of the awa on the way through wars on their way to Te TeTaiHauauruAukatitai, yeah, they just got smashed to pieces. Yeah, and most of the areas on the way there. So there was no way. As juniors, most of the tribes are down in Te TeTaiHauauruAukatitai, fierce warriors, trained really, really well. And in fact, it doesn't matter, you know, whether you're teina or tuakana. In a lot of cases, the most highly prized of warriors can end up within teina lines or tuakana lines. Okay, it doesn't matter. Needless to say, the most senior and the most prized of all our ranked seniors, in terms of taiopuru and ariki, all those sorts of seniors, the fiercest warriors in the country. But a lot of those, you know who I'm talking about, I'm talking about the whewhia. A lot of them could be trained in any of the lines. A lot of junior lines, a lot of senior lines. A lot of our fiercest warriors were in amongst, and in particular down in the South Island there. A lot of lines of whewhia down there. Okay, so yeah, a lot of our tribes like Awa, like the Ida, you know, the people of Paikea, they particularly got done, you know, they got done over in a lot of those areas, especially as far as Wellington, WairarapaTararua. Yeah, they got done over in those areas. They got taken out. And that's how we know that in most cases, Te Tini o Toi could not have been emphatically, prominent right throughout the country. They couldn't be possible. In some areas of, you know, especially the Whaiti Nui a Toi, in those areas around Mauni, Te Urewera, and all those areas around e rā wāhi tonura, ngā kuri a whāre ki tihira, e rā wāhi, e rā wenua. Yeah, you had in particular lots of prominence of Te Tini o Toi and the Awa people and Tūhoe and amongst all those tribes. You know, but then again, they weren't the most senior, they weren't the most prominent in the land. Okay? So, that's why you have that situation. And things should change and start to mellow out up there. Up in Te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai. And I think they're just starting to just now. They're just starting to mellow out and realize that because they're probably more over-exaggerated up there by the Crown, the Ngāpuhi, than what the kahunu rangitāneo have been over-exaggerated down here. So there's the similarities again with these regions here. Horribly over-exaggerated up there. Horribly over-exaggerated. Yeah. And then when we get to Horowhenua, quite a different kettle of fish down there. Even Wellington, you know, Te Whanganui o Orotu, Te Whanganui a Tara, is quite a different kettle of fish again. Quite different from WairarapaTararua and Taunga Wairua. Quite different from Te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai. So we'll have a totally different approach to them, even though we've laid the Whakatapu right across. That's why I said, we probably won't even get to use it up in high power anywhere else. Apart from Taunga Wairua, it was already set up there early. Remember, when we first set it in Wairarapa, we set it in Taunga Wairua as well. Because all the stuff was happening in both areas. It wasn't just in WairarapaTararua, even though it started in WairarapaTararua. Okay? And yeah, it's been sad. A lot of tūhoe involvement, a lot of kahungunu involvement, rangitāne involvement, but mostly kahungunu and mostly mob and tūhoe. So yeah, terrible. And so after those threats through the awa, etc., and everything that happened there, we decided, let's take it right across our lands and let's make sure of this. Make sure we've got things in place to keep control everywhere. Because no doubt the negativity and the evil and wrongful things that have been done to us in these two districts, it's catching on. It's catching on. So perhaps ours got plans to do things like that too. So we want to be ready. Yeah, that's it basically. And we'll be more than ready ourselves, but we want our taonga tukuiho ready to be controlled by us and to be in our control, and not anything to do with awa or ngāpuhi. But that's only if we need that. And I think they will relax. I think personally they will relax because they'll understand how things truly were amongst their tūpuna and how much they really have lost up there as a result of the over-exaggeration of, in particular, the ngāpuhi. We could realistically say ngāpuhi and awa were over-exaggerated up that way. But they usually were put under the name of ngāpuhi. Awa came back in more prominently, the more we got encouraged over the modern day to bring awa back in, because awa back in the old days was shut out of the top of the north. They were shut out of the north. Yeah, the TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai in the olden days. And that's how it got left to be just ngāpuhi. Which wasn't true. In comes Angela Ballara, one of the most prolific researchers, Pākehā, Kuia Pākehā, Taipakeke Pākehā, and she has been one of the most prolific researchers in the area. And she found 12 tribes up there. And then we came up there and we added the 7 iwi to that. And we added all our hapu composites to that. Okay? And we said, no, Angela, dig a little deeper and have a good look at what we really have up there. And this is what the problem is with a lot of different researchers. We in particular, we like Angela Balara because she comes close. She comes close, not because she's perfect, but because she comes close. So she's done a lot of good research, and not only that, she's had a lot of good people help her in her research, Angela Balara. So she comes close, see? And we came up there, we said, oh yeah, those 12 are there, but add these 7 and add these other tribes too. That's Rakai Nui, Hapu Nui Tonu, Hapu Whakatarewa, Hapu Māori, Rakai Nui Hapu Māori, TarahiMatua Hapu Māori, Muaupoko Hapu Māori, Māmoe Hapu Māori, aroha mai, iwi, iwi Māori, Waitaha Nui, Hapu Māori, and Meone, Kaitahu, aroha mai, Tahu Pōtiki Uri, Māori, Tahu Pōtiki Uri Māori, tai atu hoki ki Waitaha rangi, Hapu Māori, or Hapu Whakatarewa rānei. Okay? And so, we've got all those things there. All those things in place that Angela Balara missed. Why? Totally because she's not an expert on te tūturutanga of things. Te tino, te tūturu of things. Karakau. Iai. Te ao kōhatu tūturu. Karakau iai. Okay? And so, you know, not just us either, but the most senior, Moai Hapu, Te Awa Hapu, Tutura te Matua, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, TeKura-i-Awarua, Te Wharawānanga o Roto Raia Te Atahiti. Yeah, TeKura-i-Awarua, all the teachings and kōrero from there has helped us be able to reacquaint with the tūturutanga that's been missing for so long up there. Okay? And once we begin to understand, you know, the proper ways of becoming associated with the tikanga and the kawa that goes along with all of that area, we'll start to understand exactly who we are and where we should be positioned. And te tūturutanga o tātou mātou I roto o te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai. Yeah. And that's, so that's not just our version, you know. And it's the same on WairarapaTararua, Taunga Wairua. A lot of people come to us, they look at us, they look at what we bring the area, and they think it's just our story, you know, and they go to us, oh, wow, you put down tūhoi for having one story and one way, blah, blah, blah. What about you? You know, it sounds like it's just your story and that's it. And we go, no, but our story is made up of a number of different stories. But we do bring the guts of te ao kōhatu. Our ao kōhatu, where we're concerned. We don't make rulings based on all the other iwi, you know, all the 7 iwi and tai tokerau. What you'll find is that we'll stipulate exactly where we are and who we are in the mix. But you'll get more of an idea of where you are once we've finished all our work with you. But we won't try and make you like us, see? Because that's how things work in te ao kōhatu. That's te tūturutanga. You have more control over yourself and your own iwi not of others. Not of others, no. No. See, and that's the mistake that Tūhoe makes. They always think that everything that they bring out is for everybody else too, and that's not true. That's not true. Everything that's Tūhoe is particularly Tūhoe uri, but mainly awa. That's who they really are, and that's where a lot of their things come from, and that's who they're really for. See? Okay, and so that's the same with us. All our stuff is for Tahumaakaakanuimatua. But everything that we bring in the regions, have a good look, because you'll find the additional kōrero from others. Like a lot of our kōrero and WairarapaTararua, also based on a lot of the work of the chosen one in the area, see? Who was also Tahumaakaakanuimatua, see? See, people are not recognising that. And we don't totally count out the kōrero of the Crown, or the kōrero of Kahuna, or the kōrero of Rangitane. It's still in there. We've just adjusted it to have a good look at, what the TeKura-i-Awarua says, and what a lot of our kōrero that we bring to the argument also says. Okay, before we close off at the Crown, because the Crown really doesn't bring us anything. The Crown's hopeless, as far as we're concerned. Koretake te Crown. Koretake. And although we do count in a lot of the evidence, it only goes so far. So it's useless. Crown evidence is only good for what the Crown thinks. And most of what the Crown thinks is never substantiable. So it's useless. That's why we call it useless. But yeah, there are some details in there that the Crown uncovers for us. And, like a lot of the stuff in the Land Court. There's some good stuff in there, but when you look at the situation everyone was in terms of the Land Court, everyone was being manipulated and controlled, And that's why you got a lot of the kōrero that you got. And if you fit everything in with the Owakuu hati tūturu in these areas, what you'll find is the story is quite different to what Kahunu Rangitane bring. And in fact, we bring all the other. They brought 30%, everybody else. The chosen one and us have brought the other 70%. See? So just before everyone tries to think that we're the same as the blimmin tūhoi kai te e tēnā. E no tēnā, e rawa. Okay, so, and yeah, in Te TaTaiHauauruAukatiTai, that's particularly how we're going to approach Te TaTaiHauauruA, and there are some similarities with these two districts down this way, but there are some differences. There's some unique characteristics there, and there's a lot more there. A lot more. There's a very special part of the country, and always was, as you can tell. When you look at it, most of the primary tupuna and tribes docked there first. Hey. Look, and it's always held pride of place in the country, the north. But let's look quickly at Horowhenua and Wellington before I sign off for tonight. And in terms of approach, we're going to be quite different with them. Why? Because we get on a lot better with them. It's going to be a lot easier there in terms of being able to bring people up to scratch. Why? I think just that we understand each other a lot better. In fact, we've worked a lot closer with them. Wellington, Wairarapa's practically worked together. And most of our work has been done, if not in the South Island, it was either Wellington in the north and the rest of the western Aukatitai. Yeah, where most of the work was done. A lot was done in Auckland prior. Quite a fair bit done in the East Coast, but mostly what we needed was founded in Wellington, Wairarapa. And it's not hard to see that because quite often our location moved from Wairarapa to Wellington to Wairarapa to Wellington. Yeah. And often we did a lot of our research in the south. Hard case there, eh? But we didn't find that the south was our main claim until close to the end of last year. Yeah. We didn't realise that. But we've actually used a lot of the South Island connection to make sure of a lot of our findings in earlier times. So, yeah, quite different in terms that we get on with them a lot better. And in fact, we could find settlements in those areas. Might be tough again down south in TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai. But in particular in TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai, and especially out at Waimarino and areas like that, Whanganui, Manawatu, Te Papaioia, all those areas, Whenua a lot easier to settle within those areas, and perhaps top of the south, we don't know. We don't know. We'll have to do some work, a lot more HawhauaoMo, work a lot more with the top of the south and get a better gauge then of how things will go there. But the different approaches could see us work a bit differently there. We don't think those areas would be likely to look at trying to get us to settle under them, mind you. But we do think settlements would be easier to come by, much more agreeable. And we would probably, because they're all juniors, we would probably ask for compromise. And we will probably get that easier. Yeah. Okay. Everyone knows us around these areas, Wellington, South Island. But the problem with the South Island, especially in TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai, is that there's a large contingent, especially Canterbury, Christchurch, that haven't always agreed with us. And in fact, they tried to lock us out from about 2010 onwards. They tried to lock us out of there, but failed. Because we wouldn't take no for an answer. Same with Waimarino, until we teamed up with Waikato Maniapoto Tainui. Yeah. We teamed up, got better known out there, and found that we were strongly intermarried out that way, out of Waimarino. And that's how we started to grow a lot better out there and become well known out there. But they tried to lock us out, some tribes in the northern areas of Waimarino, te Waimarino, Aotearoa Pōtai, Ruapehu, those areas, they tried to lock us out. Especially I can't remember the name of the place now. There's Owakuu there. And I must be getting a little bit tired. I'm about to sign off anyway. We would think that settlements and everything would be quite peaceful. But yeah, we are hoping that the TuKura-i-Aukatitai will end up a lot easier, and in fact, technically should be the easiest area so far to settle in. So we don't think things should go too far. And why? Well, the fact of the matter is that we're dealing with a lot more people up that way that have a lot more knowledge of te Owakuu, see, and of course there's Te Reo and all those sorts of things. But that's why a lot of our tribes get it wrong. They bring their versions of, I forgot to finish what I was saying when I was talking about Angela Ballara. Sometimes they bring their version of events in, and they get their kōrero wrong in their research, and they don't realise why. And some of the main reason why is because they don't understand the consistencies of the tribes. They've got to look a lot closer at the consistencies of the tribes. And what they will find is that things are quite different up there because they've totally missed the boat in that area. They missed the waka in that area. They haven't looked closely enough at the consistencies of tribes. And this is why when because we weren't making trouble when we talked to tribes and we said to them, look, you're only an uri. You haven't got an ura tārewa. And we particularly wanted to see their reaction to that, and we knew straight away that, these are people who have never paid close attention enough to the detail and the consistencies of tribes. And they need to look a lot harder. And like, for example, things like te reo. He haki ni te āhua ki ngā wāhi, me ngā wāwāhitanga tonu hoki o roto o te kupu. Te āhua o te whakapuaki, e rātu āhua tanga katoa, te reo a Hapu, pewhia nei, te takoto mai o te kupu, te wairua tonu o te kupu, e rātu āhua tanga katoa. People haven't, where the reo is concerned, they haven't paid enough attention to the uniqueness and style of reo and, the use of the reo, the lei of the reo, and also te wairua. E nā o tātou, tino matatau ki te reo, tino rāngo nā tua i te mea nei te wairua o te reo me te takoto o tēnā I roto I ngā reo. Okay, that's before we even get to speak with people who speak those reo. We should know and understand te wairua tonu o te reo I te tuatai. A lot of those things can tell you whether whether, and help you to know whether you're right or wrong. Okay, about a judgment on a particular tribe. And this is why I'm going to keep saying this. Te reo tonu o ngā puhi, e harai te reo o ngā puhi. I'm sorry to say. I mean, they can keep speaking that because it's likely that there's a lot of ngā puhi anyway that speak that reo that are probably of the tribe that owns that reo. See, and that's probably why that reo has grown through the ngā puhi ranks as ngā puhi have become of preeminence and over-exaggerated up in that area, and they started to speak that reo. Yeah, kāroha hoki, but I'm going to continue to say that the consistencies of that reo would tell people like me and Tahumaakaakanuimatua that tēnā reo tonu e harakau te reo o ngā puhi. Yeah. E harakau te reo o ngā puhi. It may have been a reo that some of your people spoke, but belonged to other people, another tribe. And in fact, it's not even a Hapu composite reo. That reo is an iwi reo. Okay? So that cuts down all the possibilities, eh? So one of the iwi up there do speak that reo. But yeah, it's up to us to work out which of the iwi it is. Te tani o te reo, te rani tonu anō o te whakapuaki o te kupu, e rātu āhuatanga katoa. We have to get used to that sort of thing in terms of the different deal. I mean, we speak of mita. I mean, a lot of these things are part of mita. We should be used to those sorts of things, but not just the Pākehā understandings of these things. We need to get back to worldview. Te ao kōhatu, me te ao te whakaaro, o waiiwi, o waitangata, wai mea nei, wai hapu Māori, he hake nei, te māramatanga, me te mōhio, me te mātau, o te tangata o roto tonu anō I mea iwi, mea uri, mea hapu rā nei, Māori, katoa nei. Pewhia ko I hoki. PaeperaKoroutu. Yeah, so we have to be able to understand all those sorts of things. And I know that goes a lot deeper than what you've probably gone very, very deep. I know a lot of kōrero has gone down up there, and you can feel it, you can sense it, and we appreciate that, we value that, and we're looking forward to mixing in with everybody up there and getting to know that and feel that too. But kāroha hoki, because we have to go much, much deeper than what you have. Okay? And it's going to be a hard road, but one of the things we want to express to people up there, and we're going to do all the time that we're up there, every time we visit, every time we stay up there, we're going to be helping people to always, in anything cultural. Ever since I first started in cultural things, when I was, yay high, very little, I've always had this open mind. The people ask me what have been my greatest tools. I said, takuroro, takuhinengaro whakaaro. Mā koha atu nei te āhua. Mā koha atu nei te āhua. Okay, so that's and same with the heart. Ne? Same with the heart. Te whatu manawa, kia ngā kau mahaki, kia ngā kau iti, ngā kau heha nei. A koia ke nei pia. Koia ke nei huki pia koi. Ngā tūāhuatangi me mahaki. Ngā tūāhuatanga me mahaki, me iti. Te ngā kau. Kia mā koha tonu hoki. A te hinengaro whakaaro. All the time. All the time. And that's been my greatest tools. Not weapons, I said weapons before, eh? My greatest tools, the instruments that I've gone in to every space, cultural space, and why I've done so well. No te mea la hoki ko ia tēnā. No matter where my beliefs lie, no matter where my beliefs lie, I didn't get too seriously bogged down with that. I know I have been, as I've gotten, a bit older, as I've matured a lot more, I've gotten more serious in those areas. However, that's because of being forced into that. But pērā tonu anu hoki, te āhuatanga ki tō ngā tūpuna, ki roto ki te wā hi tonu, me te wā kia rātai. Mā koha tonu te hinengaro whakaaro I roto I a rātai. Iti tonu hoki te ngākai. Mahaki tonu hoki te ngākai. Open of heart and open of mind. Why? Because our customary identity, you'll find, is always diverse. Okay? So you have to be open to the simple fact of that. Most of what we speak of today is iwi. Yes, you do have a main iwi that you grow up within, but that doesn't mean to say you don't have other iwi. And so realistically, we should be only affiliating with iwi today. We might have a hapu composite of mea hapu's composite. What's one? Te arawa. For instance, our hapu composite might be te arawa. Nā pēnā tonu hoki me nā kai te tika hoki kia te arawa. A mea nei, a koro ati awa. Hai hapu I roto o awa, kia rātau. Ana, ko awa tonu, ko te iwi, kia rātau. Tēnā ko tō rātau iwi ko awa. Okay, so if today, what is more, and that's the same thing in our tūpuna's day, you know, that the iwi was far more of primary affiliation, except for on the ground. On the ground, all the different other componentries of composite hapu, composite uri, and whānau a panui pēnā tonu hoki anō I tērā. You know, they mattered more on the ground. But when, you know, if you went out of your regional area and you had to tell people ko tō iwi, well, usually in their time you didn't have to, because kua mōhio ke I a rātau. Kua mōhio tonu ke I a rātau. Ki te ake atu ana kanohi a koe. Okay, so they already knew at sight of you where probably that you were from. Okay, but if you had to state that, you would state your iwi. Okay, and then depending on which area you were in, if the iwi area that you were in was an iwi of yours, kai te pai. Mea tonu nā ia koe I tēnā o ngā iwi. Okay, because that's the land you're in. He iwi ke ano, ko tēnā, ko mea iwi, ko mea iwi, ko mea iwi. Okay? Because when we get to the hapu composites and uri composites, we get more in detail and more in depth. And we don't really need to go on about all those sorts of things. But they are a part of our customary identity, but they're more detailed about that. Okay, we don't have to get right into detail, just go straight to the main source. And the main source, no, ko mea iwi. Okay? And so like for me, I would say Tahumaakaakanuimatua. When I go into our land, I can say, koawa. Koawa. Ko mea iwi ke ano, ko Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Ko taku iwi matua tēnā. See ana. Ana hitu a kana tēnā kia auna, you know? And so, yeah, that's my main iwi line, taku iwi matua. And, yeah. And, I don't disagree to being an awa. It's just it's a teina line for me, awa. Same with Te Aotearoa Nui no Rungatarangi, that's another iwi of mine. And, mo ai hapu, te awa hapu, the other iwi of mine. Yeah, so I've got 6 iwi I've got. 6 iwi. Only one iwi that I'm not, and that's Moriori. Yeah. So that's very, very important to understand what customary identity is all about. It's a very diverse thing. And that's why, te mea ke hoki, kia mā koha tonu anō, te hinengaro whakaaro. Te ngā kau kia mahaki, kia iti. Okay, be open and be, you know, he puare tonu, he wātea tonu, ki te nui o ngā kōre. Me te rereke I o e tahiwa, whakapita ke I o e tahiwa. E rā mea katoa. Yeah, you know, and so when you get to those certain details, those are very fine details. Those are those are the breakdown of your customary identity. You don't really need those all the time. You just have to say, Tahumaakaakanuimatua. E rā mea katoa. Okay. And taku tino uri taku tino ko Tutura te tama. Tutura te tama. Ko ia tonu hoki ko au te tuakana o roto Tutura te tama. Uri, Māori, uri, whakaeke, tūpuna, o roto Tahumaakaakanuimatua, morehu, tūākana, o roto, you know, and all those sorts of things. So, just a little bit more I wanted to share there about those sorts of things. And we're quite close down these parts, and that's why Horo Whenua is going to be quite an easy area to work with. Same with the whanganui orotu, the whanganui atara. And let's leave it there for tonight. It's been a long day and a long kōrero tonight. And I just wanted to make sure that I got through all of the kōrero tonight. And that I worked with my notes from my iPad. Yeah, just opening my iPad back up. Yep, up springs all my notes in there. On all of the kōrero that I was going to share with you today. And plus I've got my takutuhi tanea. Takutuhi tanea. I rau papatonu I huanuai. E ahau taku kōrero ki roto tēnei rā. Aroha mai, ka aroha hoki. Te he rawa mai o te pae tukutuku I roto tēnei rā. Tēnā hōhā hoki. Tēnā hōhā hoki. You know, he hea rawane. He hea rawane. And I got quite hōhā, especially by the end there. Mind you, I was really hōhā before then. Probably by the second and third time, I'd gotten really hōhā because I wasn't ready for that today. But I'm glad that I decided, right, okay, I'm making my way to the other office. I knew it was further away to go, but I went, no. Karau te mea nei, me taku ki atu I taku hōhā. Me taku ki, you know, once I've had kua kaipō ahi nei ke e ahau, you know, ya nana ya, you know, kua huri ke ake atu anō nei e ahau te kōrero ki te whakatituki, ki te whakarite pai atu, ki roto ki tēnei pō. And so that's what I endeavoured to do with this kōrero. And I'm glad I did. I know I've taken a bit longer, maybe about half an hour too long tonight, but aroha mai. I just wanted to make sure because of how, especially from yesterday, ka tino hōhā noa ke ahau, I tō te rainahi. Ana ka e na wā ke atu te āhuatanga I roto I tō te rainahi. But we come to a close for tonight I te pōtonu nei. Actually, I might be even an hour out. I didn't realise it's now close to 9:30. But ki te pōtonu hoki, te pō nei tonu. My hope is that our Lord, you know, ngā manaakitanga, ato tātou atua matua kaharawa, te rungarawa, te ia we atua ki runga ki a tātou. Tēnā katoa no o tātou mātou I waho mai nā, puta katoa. Kai roto katoa no nei ngā manaakitanga I tēnā. Kai roto katoa no I ngā tūāhuatanga katoa. Puta ki ngā whakatupuranga katoa. Kia horaki atu ki runga kia tēnā, ki tēnā, ki tēnā, ki tēnā o tātou mātou. Ki roto ki te pōkatoa. Ki roto ki ngā tūāhuatanga katoa no o tātou mātou. Father Lord, I just pray and hope that your protection and your love and guidance and your thoughts remain with us as you always endeavour to do, and that your mercy and grace is always there for us and helping us along the way through our journeys, our spiritual journeys, through our life and whatever else we have to do tonight. But also keep us in rest tonight as we sleep, keep us safe, keep us warm, and keep us protected by your love, by your spiritual strength, your fire, Lord, in your spirit and in your love for us at all times. And in knowing, Lord, that you died for us all. You died for us all on the cross. You took our sins. You were the propitiation for our sins. Yahane, to save, for no other reason but to save our spiritual existence and to preserve it forevermore. And the hope that we would be saved and be granted eternal life. In the name of your Son, in the name of Christ Jesus. Amen. Ka piti hona ka tātai hono, ko rātau mātonu anō tērā rātau, kua nui te kōrero kēnei. I roto i e nei wā, me te āta whakaaro ke tonu hoki. A hakoa rā tupua e te taru ka tanihia tonu hia. Ngā mate. Ka tanihia tonu hia. Ngā mate. E no reira haere whakaotiati. Haere whakaotiati. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono, ko tātou mātonu anō tēnei tātou. Ka anu hiora tonu ki a tātou, ki a koutou. Koutou anō, ka tino māro mai te, ahuaori te mai nei i te whita mai o te tūāhuatanga te whita mai. Tino kaha ke mai nei rā koutou waho mai nā i karamumi tonu mai anō ai ngā kōrero. Kai te mihi atu, tēnā rā tātou, mauri ora. Ka huri